Inspiring encounter. Young billionaire discovers a life-changing secret inside a hidden box. Jack stood in the attic, beads of sweat trickling down his temples, as he rummaged through the cluttered memories of his late grandmother's home. The sweltering heat of the Saturday sun slanted through small, dust-smeared windows, illuminating the specks swirling in the air, almost as if the past had come to life around him. Yet, amidst the shadows, a weathered wooden box caught his eye, begging to be opened. His heart raced as he lifted the lid, releasing a musty scent of aged paper that enveloped him like an old friend. Inside lay letters penned in his grandmother's steady hand. Words poured out onto the pages like warm honey, revealing tales of struggles and triumphs, of neighbors who needed help, veterans who sought comfort, and community gatherings that knitted lives together. There was magic in those letters, filling Jack with an ache he hadn't felt in years, a longing buried under layers of success and wealth. Each letter was infused with her unwavering commitment to others, a stark contrast to the isolated luxury he inhabited in his lavish suburban home. Lost in her words, Jack felt a burning tug at his heart. Was he measuring his life by the wrong standard? His grandmother wrote about finding joy in service, not in dollar signs. Thoughts of his estranged brother Ryan began to swirl in his mind. Once inseparable, their bond had splintered under the weight of Jack's meteoric rise to fame. Now, Ryan was a ghost in the periphery of his success, a painful reminder of what he had lost. A spark ignited within him. What if he threw a community fundraiser to honor his grandmother's legacy? Maybe that could rebuild the bridge between him and Ryan, reminding them of the love that once tied them together. With enthusiasm blaring in his ears, he dove into planning, envisioning the joyful faces of neighbors, laughter, and music, creating a night to remember. But as the event date drew dangerously close, doubts crept in. The community's warm acceptance dissolved into wary suspicion. Jack's intentions felt tainted by the veneer of his wealth. Frustration bubbled inside him like a boiling pot, simmering over when the day of the event finally arrived. He looked over the crowd, expecting recognition, expecting warmth. Instead, he felt the windows of his heart close as he caught sight of Ryan slipping away into the night, leaving only shadows behind. "I needed you here," Jack shouted, pushing through people who whispered judgments and suspicions. Anger surged through him as he found Ryan alone in a darkened alley. "Why can't you just understand what I was trying to do?" Their words clashed like thunder, frustrations colliding. Jack's wealth hung heavy in the air, a chasm of misunderstanding. "You think throwing money around is going to fix anything?" Ryan's voice cut deep, unveiling wounds masked by silence for too long. Jack stood there, at a crossroads, with his chest tight and heart racing. He could chase accolades forever or take a leap of faith to mend this broken family, to find true connections. He thought of his grandmother's wisdom echoing in the distance, urging him toward humility. How could he make amends? Could he let go of his pride to heal the rift? As their harsh words faded into the night, Jack felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. What would he choose? The answers loomed in the silence, ground zero for a life that could go in any direction. Jack stood there, feeling the weight of his emotions crash over him like a tidal wave. Beneath the anger, a river of regret surged, making it impossible to breathe. Each moment with Ryan lingered, a haunting reminder of laughter shared, the late-night talks, and their childhood adventures. Now, they were nothing more than strangers, estranged by the distance his success had created. He blinked against the darkness, the faint glow from the streetlights revealing just enough of Ryan's silhouette as he turned away. "Wait!" Jack called out, desperation wrapping around his words. He couldn't let this be the end. Not like this. To his surprise, Ryan paused, his back still turned. Jack's heart raced. "I just want to talk," he said, softer now, almost pleading. Can we just sit down for a minute?" Ryan hesitated, the tension in the air thick. Just as Jack thought he might turn back, Ryan spoke, his voice low and bitter. "Talk? What's there to say that isn't already clear? You live in a different world now, Jack. You don't need me." "No." "That's not true," Jack replied, his pulse quickening. "You're my brother. I need you. I need you to see me see who I am underneath all this." He gestured to the bustling community just beyond the alley, where laughter floated on the night air. "I'm trying to do something good here. Something for Grandma. It's important to me. Can't you give me a chance?" Ryan slowly turned around, his expression stormy. Jack saw the hurt reflected in his brother's eyes, deep-lodged wounds hidden beneath layers of mistrust. "I can't just pretend everything is fine because you decided to throw around some money for a charity," Ryan replied, his voice edged with pain. "This isn't just about you, Jack. It's about the way you've changed." Jack took a deep breath, the air tasting heavy with unspoken truths. "I know I've changed, and I wish things were different." He stepped closer, heart pounding. "But I want to fix this. For us. For Grandma." In that moment, Jack realized that change didn't start with grand gestures or expensive fundraisers. It began with vulnerability. He took another step forward, his voice quivering as he continued. "I may have poured my energy into building an empire, but I realize now I've neglected the things that matter most: my family. Can we just try to find a way to forgive each other?" Time felt suspended, the world around them muffled as they stood on the brink of something significant. Jack held his breath, waiting for Ryan's reaction. Every second stretched out painfully, filled with the weight of their shared history and the possibility of reconciliation. Ryan's gaze softened, his shoulders slackening ever so slightly. "You think you can just fix everything by doing good deeds? That's not how this works. It's about more than money." His eyes bore into Jack's soul. "It's about time spent together, memories created. Do you even remember that summer we helped fix up the old park?" Jack's chest tightened, memories bursting forth unbidden. "Of course I do. I remember the kids running around, the laughter, how alive we felt doing something for others. I miss that." The longing in his voice cracked through the air. Ryan looked away, half hopeful, half defeated. "You can't fix this in one night, or with one fundraiser. It'll take time." "I'm willing to do whatever it takes," Jack implored, his resolve solidifying. "Just please, let us take that first step together." But as the words left his mouth, Jack's phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling his attention for a brief moment. He frowned, glancing at the screen. The message was from his assistant, a reminder of the gala event scheduled for the next day where he was to be celebrated for his philanthropic work. The irony made his gut twist. A celebration built on donations, but without the connections that truly mattered. How could he embrace both? Ryan noticed the shift in Jack's expression. "You can't keep living for others' approval, Jack. You need to live for yourself, find out who you really want to be." In that moment, the realization struck both brothers. They were each navigating their own storms, fighting their battles. But could they find common ground? Jack felt a flicker of hope igniting between them. "Let us start now," Jack suggested earnestly, desperation shooting through him. "Can we just go out for coffee? Just to talk?" As Ryan considered, a flicker of possibility danced in his gaze, but there was still doubt. Would he allow himself to hope? In the stillness that followed, choices loomed before them, the air thick with unspoken sentiments and the promise of a healing journey. Could they really rebuild what had been lost? Jack's heart raced as he awaited Ryan's response, feeling the weight of the past in every second that passed. What would his brother say? Would there be a path forward? Jack held his breath, waiting for Ryan's response. The air crackled with tension. A mix of uncertainty and unvoiced hopes swirled between them. Ryan shifted slightly, his brow furrowing as he weighed the options. "Coffee?" he echoed, skepticism lacing his tone. "You think we can just sit down and what? Pretend everything's fine? Like nothing ever happened?" "No, I don't want to pretend," Jack said, his voice steadying. "I want to talk about it. All of it. What happened to us. This separation. I want to understand you, to share our lives again. Just let us take that first step and see where it leads." Ryan remained silent, staring at the ground. Jack's heart raced faster, fueled by a mixture of fear and hope. Maybe they could find their way back to each other after all. I have a lot of questions for you too, Jack, Ryan finally said, his voice low. This isn't just about you wanting to fix things. I need to know if you really mean it. The challenge was clear, and Jack felt his chest tighten. I do mean it, he replied, the urgency of his words sinking deep. I've been looking at everything all wrong. It's more than my goals or business success, it's about the people I care about. You, our family. Ryan took another moment, his expression still cautious. So tell me then, what happens after the coffee? After we talk? I don't know, Jack admitted, a wave of vulnerability washing over him. But wouldn't it be worth it to try? To see if we can find that connection again? Just be brothers? Just then, a siren wailed in the distance, a reminder of the world outside their bubble. Jack watched Ryan's features shift, uncertainty wrestling in his eyes. He took a small step forward, a gesture of goodwill. Ryan glanced up, catching Jack's gaze. Something fragile yet hopeful flickered in the space between them. Fine. Coffee. We'll talk. But just know it won't be easy. I can't promise that everything will just magically fix itself just because we share a cup. Nothing ever is easy, Jack replied, relief flooding through him. I'm willing to do the hard work. I just want a chance. That's all I need. They began walking down the alley together, side by side but still at a distance, both navigating the chaos of emotions churning beneath the surface. Jack felt the warmth of possibility sprouting inside him, even if it was muted by the weight of their history. As they approached the cafe, the bright lights spilled out onto the sidewalk like an invitation. The buzz of conversation inside blended with the clinking of cups, a cheerful noise against the backdrop of their strained silence. Ryan hesitated before stepping through the door. This place hasn't changed, he noted almost to himself. But Jack heard the tinge of nostalgia in his voice. Neither have we, Jack murmured just loud enough for Ryan to hear, and he felt a sense of solidarity between them as they crossed the threshold. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. Once they settled into a corner table, the sun spilling through the window casting shadows around them, Jack looked at his brother directly. So, where do we start? Ryan shifted in his seat, his expression contemplative. You really want to know what it was like for me, after you left? Yes, Jack said, eager for honesty, ready to peel back the layers of misunderstanding. As Ryan took a breath, Jack felt the stirrings of a conversation that could reshape them both. But just as the words began to flow, Jack's phone buzzed again, illuminating the table with an alert about the gala, a reminder that his life in the spotlight still loomed over him. Can I be honest? Jack asked, half laughing to ease the tension. I wish we could skip the gala and just focus on us for once. Ryan's eyes narrowed, a hint of laughter breaking through the heaviness. That could be a plan, he said. But you might miss some of the perks. As their banter began to unfurl the knots of tension, Jack felt hope rise within him like a dawn breaking new light over the horizon. Through laughter and shared memories, both men finally had a chance to heal. But just as they began to settle into a rhythm, a sudden commotion erupted at the entrance. A familiar figure burst in, and the room shifted, the atmosphere thickening with tension. Jack's stomach dropped. What now? He whispered, dread knotting in his gut. Who was it, and what could they possibly bring into this moment meant for reconciliation? He glanced at Ryan, whose expression mirrored his own uncertainty. This was a distraction they didn't need, but it looked like distractions were inevitable. Would this new arrival threaten their fledgling reconnection, or provide an unexpected opportunity to face what had been buried for too long? The cafe fell into a stunned silence, all eyes turning to the entrance where the figure stood silhouetted against the bright lights. It was Sarah, their childhood friend, her hair catching the light like a beacon. Jack's heart raced at the sight of her. He hadn't seen her in years, not since everything fell apart. What are you doing here? Ryan asked, voice low and tense, as if the very act of seeing her was a trigger. Sarah stepped forward, scanning the room, her gaze landing first on Ryan, then flicking to Jack. There was a fire in her green eyes, a mix of determination and vulnerability that made Jack feel both excited and anxious. I need to talk to you guys, she said firmly. Jack glanced at Ryan, searching for a hint of agreement. Ryan's brow was furrowed, but he didn't speak up, he just looked at Sarah. Cautious. Can this wait? Jack blurted out, desperation creeping into his voice. We were in the middle of something important. No, it can't wait. Sarah's tone shifted, turning urgent. It's about your father and what he was up to before everything went down. I found something. What do you mean? What did you find? Ryan asked, his wariness slowly being replaced by curiosity. Sarah took a deep breath, her words tumbling out. There's been a lot of talk. I overheard something, and there's a box. In the attic at your old place. It could change everything you thought you knew about him, about us. Jack's heart sank. Memories flashed through his mind, childhood summers spent laughing in that attic, playing hide and seek, all while their father worked on who knows what. Why now? He asked, the hurt and betrayal surfacing around his voice. After everything? Because it matters, Sarah said, her voice shaking. I know you two are trying to reconnect, but this is something you need to talk about together. Could put the past into perspective or tear it apart even more. Jack looked at Ryan, who was still processing. What do you want to do? Jack asked, hoping Ryan might relieve some of the weight pressing down on him. I don't know, Ryan replied quietly, his gaze drifting back to Sarah. But if there's something we need to see, we should probably deal with it. It might help us understand everything. As the atmosphere shifted, the bustling cafe around them faded into a distant hum. Their laughter seemed like a lifetime ago. The prospect of digging into the past was terrifying, but so was the thought of ignoring it. Jack swallowed hard, resolve hardening. Okay, let us go. Let us see what's in that box. The three of them rushed out, leaving the cafe behind a space that had felt warm and inviting, now replaced with a chill of uncertainty. Jack felt something heavy inside him shift, the dread mingling with a flicker of hope. Could facing their father's legacy lead them to healing? Or would it deepen their wounds, unraveling everything they had just begun to rebuild? As they stepped into the cool evening air, Jack felt the weight of the night pressing down on him. He could only hope that whatever they discovered might be the key to understanding the fractured pieces of their family. But as they neared the old house, the air thickened with unanswered questions. What awaited them in that attic? He could sense it, the truth hung in the shadows, just out of reach. And he wondered, was it something that would build them up or break them apart for good? As they approached the old house, memories came flooding back for Jack. The porch creaked beneath their feet, a sound he had almost forgotten. He could picture their father, standing just inside the door, welcoming them home after long summer days. But this time, the house felt different, almost like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. Ryan hesitated at the bottom of the steps, glancing up at the darkened windows. Do we have to do this now? He muttered, his voice laced with doubt. There's no point in putting it off, Sarah replied, her eyes reflecting a mix of fear and determination. We can't ignore the past forever. Jack felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He was both frightened and curious. What was in that box? What had Sarah uncovered that warranted this urgency? They stepped inside together, the air thick with years of dust and silence, the memories of laughter and arguments echoing in the background of their minds. Let us head to the attic, Jack suggested, moving toward the staircase. As they climbed, each creak beneath their feet reminded him of the playful shouts and whispered secrets that used to fill the space. Now all that remained was a heavy stillness, a sense that time had stopped, waiting for them to discover a truth that had been buried long ago. When they reached the attic door, it stood slightly ajar, an invitation and a warning all at once. Jack pushed it open, and a rush of stale air filled their lungs. The attic looked much as he remembered: old trunks, piles of boxes, and the remnants of their childhood scattered about like a jigsaw puzzle, missing a few key pieces. Where is it? Ryan asked, looking around, his tone more assertive now. Sarah stepped forward, her confidence returning. I believe it's in that corner, she said, pointing to a stack of boxes. As the three of them rummaged through the heap, Jack felt a growing anticipation. Each box they opened held relics of happier times, old toys, photographs, reminders of their lives before everything changed. Finally, They uncovered a dusty, battered cardboard box tucked away behind a stack of magazines. Jack's heart raced as he reached for it, his hands trembling slightly. This box felt different, somehow heavier with the weight of unspoken words. "Do you want to do the honors?" Sarah asked, glancing at Jack, her expression a mix of encouragement and concern. With a nod, Jack knelt down. He hesitated for a moment, everything feeling surreal. Then he ripped the tape off, the sound too loud in the stillness of the attic. Inside, he found a jumble of documents, old letters and photographs, all tied together with a fraying ribbon. "What is all this?" Ryan asked, moving closer as Jack pulled out the first letter, yellowed with age. He read it silently, his stomach churning as the words unfolded before him. What does it say?" Sarah urged, leaning in, her face reflecting the same anxiety Jack felt. For a moment he couldn't speak. The past rushed back, and he felt as if the walls were closing in. The letter spoke of secrets of dreams unfulfilled and choices that had led them all to this moment. It was a reminder of a man they had both loved and resented. "Dad." "He was trying to tell us something," Jack finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. As the weight of the letter began to sink in, fear gripped him again. What they had found could rewrite everything they believed about their father, and in turn about themselves. The truth had a way of breaking or mending souls, and Jack could feel it hovering just out of reach. "What if we aren't ready for this?" Ryan breathed, his tone laced with doubt. Jack placed the letter back in the box, feeling the full weight of their family's tangled history pressing down on him. "I guess we have to be." Their choices loomed ahead like dark clouds, casting shadows on their fragile foundation. What if the truth didn't set them free, but shattered the parts of their lives they were trying to rebuild? As they stood there, the air thick with uncertainty, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Perhaps their father's past held secrets that could reforge their bonds or pull them apart completely. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, and they had no idea what to expect. But there was one thing he knew for sure: there was more to come, and the real story was just beginning to reveal itself. Jack felt the weight of the box between his fingers, a bridge to the past that both beckoned and warned him. He glanced at Ryan, who looked pale, and then at Sarah, her eyes wide with anticipation. All of them felt the pull, the desire to know, mixed with the fear of what they might uncover. "Should we look at more?" Ryan whispered. The question hung in the air, a heavy pause that felt as if it could shatter under the slightest pressure. Jack took a steadying breath. What if we find something we can't handle? The thought chilled him, resonating deep within where unresolved pain lay coiled like a snake. Or what if we find something that helps us understand? "Understand him," Sarah countered, her voice gaining strength. Jack admired her courage but couldn't fathom the implications of digging deeper. What if their father's dreams were built on lies, or worse, regrets? Finally, with a nod, Jack drew a second letter from the box, the paper crisp against his fingers. He unfolded it carefully, reading the barely legible handwriting aloud as the words danced before him. "Owen, I never wanted this life for you," he hesitated, the name cutting through him like a knife. "Dad's middle name," Ryan murmured, his brow furrowing. As Jack continued to read, the letter revealed snippets of a life hidden in shadows, hints of sacrifices made for family and feelings unsaid. It sounds like he struggled, like he fought to keep us safe, to give us what he thought was best, or maybe he simply couldn't handle the truth. Ryan interjected, a note of bitterness edging his tone. Jack flinched at that, not wanting to believe their father had lived with secrets. With every line, Jack felt more and more torn. Did they owe it to their father to dig for the truth, even if the digging hurt? Or was blissful ignorance the better option? "I think there's more," Sarah said suddenly, her eyes darting back into the box. She lifted out a worn photograph, and the collective breath they held fractured with curiosity. "Is that?" Jack leaned in closer, and his heart sank. It was a picture of their dad, but not the dad they remembered. This was a younger man, a self-assured look on his face, standing beside a woman Jack didn't recognize. The backdrop held a charm that echoed times long gone. Was this their father's secret? A life untold? Who is she? Ryan's words were tight, sparking tension. He clenched his fists by his side, longing to erase any notion of infidelity or unfairness. I don't know, Jack admitted, sensing the new path unraveling before them. But we should find out. We deserve to know who he was, not just who we thought he was. The air felt electric, charged with uncertainty and the weight of their father's choices. Each of them wrestled with the implications. Faces taught this journey was turning darker, more complex than any of them had anticipated. Do we want to keep going? Sarah asked, her voice steady yet trembling on the edge of apprehension. Yes, Jack replied, boldness rising within him. Even if the truth was unsettling, they needed to confront it head-on. For their family, for their father. As they sifted through the box, the room seemed to shrink around them, as if the weight of history pressed hard against their shoulders. A newfound determination fueled their actions. They weren't just piecing together a family history. They were reclaiming themselves. When another paper slipped out, a tightly folded document that appeared to be an envelope, anticipation hummed like a low chord. Jack gestured to it. Their eyes flicked with a mix of dread and eagerness. What revelations awaited them within? But the moment of hesitation thickened the air, and Jack realized the walls might not just be closing in. They were also beginning to open. Are we ready for this? He asked, glancing again between Ryan and Sarah, hoping the answer was more than just a simple yes. What they unearthed next might forever alter their understanding not only of their father but of each other. The adventure they embarked upon was starting to feel as unsettling as it promised to be exciting. Like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. As Sarah reached for the envelope, Jack's heart pounded in his chest. This was it. The moment could reveal all, tearing open their lives in ways they could never predict. What had their father truly concealed? The question lingered between them, heavy with possibility, echoing as they braced for whatever awaited in the shadows. Sarah's fingers trembled as she handled the envelope, examining its frayed edges. The anticipation in the room seemed to thicken the air. Jack and Ryan leaned closer, their breaths mingling with a mixture of hope and dread. What if this changes everything? Sarah murmured, breaking the suffocating silence. Jack nodded, barely able to speak. It already has, he replied, his voice a low whisper, cracked with emotion. With a sudden burst of resolve, Sarah tore at the envelope, the paper crinkling like rustling leaves. Inside was an official-looking document, slightly yellowed with age. As her eyes scanned the text, her mouth fell open, a mixture of shock and confusion washing over her. It's a birth certificate, she said, her voice shaky. But it has a different name. Jack leaned over to see for himself, his heart racing. The name was unfamiliar. Samantha Elkins. No part of that name rang any bells, but the birth date shook him. It was just a few months after they were born. What? Ryan exclaimed, his voice rising. What does it mean? Is there another sibling? His anger simmered just below the surface, and Jack could see the tension creeping across his brother's face. I don't know, Sarah stammered. Is dated in the same city where Dad grew up? But who is she? Jack's mind raced. Every question felt like a weight pulling them deeper into a void. Do we even want to find out? He asked, unsure of how this could change everything they thought they understood. Would they be uncovering family secrets or simply walking into a realm of unimaginable pain? Sarah flipped the document over, revealing an official stamp that suggested legitimacy. There must be more, she stated, her determination taking root despite the chaos. We need to look further. Wait, Ryan interrupted, a surge of protective instinct rising in him. If this is true, then Dad had another life we never knew about. What if it changes everything about us? His fists clenched tighter, the inner turmoil threatening to overflow. He may have had his reasons, Jack offered, trying to hold the peace. But knowing doesn't change us. It just adds pieces to a puzzle we didn't ask for. They exchanged glances, uncertainty swirling like a tempest. Sarah appeared resolute, but her voice quavered. We could just pretend we never opened it. Leave it here. Let sleeping dogs lie, she suggested, but even she could hear the wavering in her words. "No," Jack said, firmly shaking his head. "I can't unsee this. We owe it to ourselves to uncover whatever truth is left behind." Anger and fear coursed through his veins, battling with a desperate sense of purpose. What if Samantha, what if she needs us? Silence settled over them as they absorbed the implications. Would another sibling be waiting somewhere, carrying a shared bloodline hidden from them all this time? The possibility sent chills up Jack's spine. Could they just walk away after learning this? "We'll start looking." Sarah's voice cut through the tension. "Steadier now. Wherever this leads, we do it together." Jack nodded slowly, feeling a flicker of hope through the doom. As they gathered the papers from the box, he couldn't shake the uncertainty about their next step. Did they truly want to uncover their father's past? The thought of meeting someone who might have shared so much with their dad sparked both excitement and dread. Ryan sighed, the struggle visible across his face. "If we find this Samantha, what do we even say?" "Tell her the truth," Jack declared, feeling a surprising strength. "She deserves to know who we are and who he was." As they prepared for their journey, an unshakable bond knitted them together. Each of them carried an uncharted piece of this mystery, a weight that pressed against their souls as they ventured down a path cloaked in shadows. But little did they know, the darkness ahead held more than just questions. It guarded truths that could either bind them closer or tear them apart entirely. Jack felt the anticipation rise again, a storm ready to break. "Let us do this," he said, determined. Yet, as they stepped forward into the unknown, the inkling of a deeper, darker secret began to unravel, waiting just under the surface like a coiled spring. What lay ahead could redefine everything they believed, not just about their father, but about family and the ties that bind them all. As they piled into the car, the air buzzed with a tension that was almost electric. Jack took the driver's seat, his fingers gripping the steering wheel tightly. He could feel the unease brewing inside him, a storm that matched the clouds swirling above. "Let us just map out where this Samantha lives first," Sarah suggested, her voice steady. "I mean, if she really exists, how do we even start this conversation?" Ryan leaned back in his seat, arms crossed, staring out the window. "What if she doesn't want to know us? What if she already has a family? We could be tearing open old wounds." His words dripped with concern, each syllable weighed heavily by the possibility of rejection. Jack caught Sarah's eye in the rearview mirror. "That's a risk we have to take. We can't let fear decide for us. It's time we face the truth, however painful it is." The car zipped through the streets, bright lights dashing by as night closed in. They headed toward the city, each mile deepening their connection while amplifying the dread. Jack's heart raced, mirroring the speed at which they drove. What would they find when they arrived? They finally parked in front of a modest two-story home in a quiet neighborhood. The air felt different here. Tension thickened again as they stepped out of the car, the chill of the autumn breeze wrapping around them like a warning. Taking a deep breath, Jack led the way up the path. His heart hammered as they approached the front door. "Is this really happening?" Ryan asked quietly, shifting nervously. "Maybe we should call first." "No way," Sarah replied, her determination unwavering. "We need to do this face to face. She deserves that." There was a clarity to her voice, and Jack felt himself drawn to her bravery. Yet doubt loomed in the back of his mind. Jack knocked firmly, each sound echoing like thunder in the stillness. Moments passed before they heard footsteps approaching from inside. Time seemed to stretch as anticipation thickened. When the door swung open, reality rushed in like a tidal wave. A woman, mid-20s with striking auburn hair and wide, curious eyes, stood before them. "Yes? Can I help you?" Jack opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. He suddenly felt smaller, exposed, as if stripped down to his very essence. His mind raced through 1,000 possibilities. This was Samantha, and yet, she didn't know who they were or what was coming. He stumbled, searching for the right words. But before he could continue, Ryan stepped forward. "We're your half-brothers." And sister, his voice cracked, revealing the raw edge of emotion they all felt. Samantha's eyes widened, confusion skirting the edges of her expression. "What? she asked softly, the word barely escaping her lips. There was a heartbeat of silence, a moment heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. Jack could see the wheels turning in her head, the realization dawning. A flood of disbelief washed over her features. You can't be serious. Yes, we are, Sarah interjected. It's complicated, but we need to explain. Before the conversation could spiral out of control, Jack felt a sense of urgency. Please, can we come in? You deserve to hear the whole truth. Samantha hesitated but then stepped aside, allowing them entry into her life. Jack could feel the vast unknown awaiting them inside, cloaked in layers of secrets. As they settled into the modest living room, he caught a glimpse of framed photographs on the wall, glimpses of a life he never knew. Samantha sat down, her gaze locked onto Jack. So tell me everything. The gravity of her request filled the room. Jack glanced at Sarah and Ryan, each of them bracing for what awaited. Would unveiling their father's secrets tear them apart, or somehow bring them back together in a newfound bond? Just as he opened his mouth to speak, the doorbell rang again, an unexpected interruption that sent ripples of apprehension through the air. What new chapter of their story awaited them behind that door? Jack's heart skipped a beat as he glanced at Samantha, whose confusion morphed into concern. The doorbell rang again, a sharp reminder that their moment of truth might have a twist neither of them anticipated. Should I get that? She asked, her voice tinged with nervousness. Maybe we all should, Sarah volunteered, feeling a tightness in her chest that mirrored the tension in the air. They exchanged looks, a silent agreement that whatever was about to happen could change everything. Samantha stood, hesitating before heading to the door. Jack could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. What if it was someone from her past? Someone who could cause chaos before they even had a chance to get to know each other? As Samantha reached for the doorknob, Jack's throat tightened. Maybe we should talk first? He blurted out, the urgency rising within him. There's so much, but the door swung open before he could finish. A tall figure stood there, handsome and poised, wearing a crisp suit that seemed a size too big for the regular life outside this home. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was someone significant. Hey Sam, I thought I'd surprise you, the man said with a bright smile that abruptly faded as his gaze shifted over to Jack and the others. The warmth in his eyes froze, and he took a small step back, cautious yet assessing. Who are they? He asked pointedly. Samantha's expression shifted, her confusion giving way to defensiveness. I was just about to find out, she stuttered, glancing back at Jack and his siblings. Jack felt a knot form in his stomach. We're family, he managed to say before the weight of the situation drained the meaning from his words. Family? The man echoed, incredulous. What are you talking about? Ryan stepped forward, the tension in his voice palpable. We just found out we're her half-siblings. We came to Samantha cut him off, her voice sharper. Just give me a moment. She stepped out onto the porch, glancing between the two worlds, the one inside, full of questions, and the one outside, with a stranger who seemed to have a stake in her life. Jack struggled with the urge to intervene, but he didn't want to overwhelm her. Silence stretched, hanging thick like fog in the air. He could see Samantha's hands trembling slightly, her face a mask of uncertainty. The man shifted his weight, clearly unsettled. Look, it's complicated, Samantha said finally, her voice firm. I just need a moment. Can you give me that? The man's gaze flickered with conflict as he looked toward Jack and Sarah, then back to Samantha. Yeah, okay. I'll wait in the car. His expression was a mix of hurt and confusion as he slowly stepped back, glancing between her and the siblings. As soon as the door clicked shut, the air inside the house shifted. The moment was fragile, and Jack knew this could easily unravel. Who was that? He asked, his voice steady but anxious. Samantha took a deep breath, her large eyes looking bewildered. That was Alex, my boyfriend. A rush of emotions flooded the room, jealousy, confusion, and even a hint of hope. Jack absorbed the news, realizing the complexity of what lay ahead. Are you serious? We just dropped this bombshell on you, and now there's him? Yes, she replied, an edge creeping into her tone. This is complicated enough without you all stirring up things I didn't even know about. Jack's heart sank. They hadn't even scratched the surface of the truth, and now it felt shrouded in layers of disbelief and doubt. Maybe it's time to talk this out, Sarah suggested, trying to bridge the divide. Whatever's going on, we can face it together. Samantha's expression softened slightly at Sarah's words, but uncertainty still glimmered in her eyes as she cast a glance back toward the door. Jack sensed the hesitation in the room. The reality of who they were to each other loomed heavy. Would they become a family, or would the ties that bound them also divide them? As Samantha deliberated, the clock ticked away, and the tension thickened again. Just then, the doorbell rang once more, offering a last, impending twist to their story. What now? Ryan muttered, a frown marring his face. Samantha froze, her gaze darting between them and the door. I don't know if I can handle more surprises tonight. She took a step toward the door, but Jack's voice stopped her. Wait, what if it's something we're not ready to face? At that moment, a mixture of anticipation and dread hung in the air. What awaited them beyond that door could either tear them apart or begin to weave the tapestry of their newfound bond. Samantha's hand shook slightly as she reached for the doorknob. Jack felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. What more could this night unravel? As she hesitated, he could almost hear the silent questions ticking away like a time bomb. Maybe it's better to let it go for now, Ryan suggested, urgency lacing his tone. This is already too much. But Jack could see the curiosity in his brother's eyes, the same urge they all felt to discover what lay beyond the threshold of their past. Let us face it together, Jack said finally, stepping closer. We came here to embrace this truth, whatever it looks like. We owe it to ourselves and to her. His heart raced with conviction and fear. Taking a collective breath, Samantha nodded, resolve settling over her features. Okay, she whispered. Let us see what's behind that door. With newfound determination, she swung open the door. Jack braced himself, and his breath caught as the figure before them was indeed unexpected. It was a middle-aged woman, her hair windswept and features familiar yet distant. Jack could see a flicker of recognition in Ryan's eyes, the pieces of their shared history slipping together like a jigsaw puzzle. Martha, the woman said, her voice trembling with nostalgia and disbelief. Is it really you, Mom? Jack breathed, disbelief sweeping through him. What are you doing here? The tension in the air grew thick, almost electric. The weight of years felt palpable, and the memories of their childhood rushed forward, a flood of emotions they had buried so deeply. Jack's heart raced while he felt Ryan stiffen beside him, eyes wide with shock. I didn't know you were back in town, Martha said, her voice cracking. I just heard you were looking for me. I was scared to come, but I had to know if it's true. What's true, Mom? Ryan's voice was quiet but firm, a blend of disbelief and anger simmering beneath the surface. She took a deep breath, brushing her hair behind her ear with a flick of uncertainty. That you found out about Samantha. Jack's mind spun, the weight of everything catching up to him. What do you mean? Who is she in all of this? She's your sister, Martha admitted, choking on the words. Your father thought he could protect you from the truth, but the truth has a way of clawing its way back to the surface. Jack felt the world tilt on its axis. His legs felt weak, and he struggled to process everything. But why didn't you tell us? He demanded, a mix of hurt and bewilderment pouring from him. Martha glanced toward Samantha, her eyes reflecting a deep sadness. I made mistakes, and I didn't want to drag you into the chaos of our lives back then. I thought I could protect you by keeping the truth buried. Jack stepped forward, taking it all in. Did Dad even know about this? Yes, Martha said, looking torn. He tried to make amends, but his choices, they shattered everything we had. I wanted to keep you safe, but maybe I just did more harm than good. Silence fell as they stared at her, the reality of their complicated family history hanging over them like a heavy cloud. Jack's heart raced with every revelation, intertwining threads of mistrust, love, and longing. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, but it brought more questions than answers. Can we trust you? Can we trust any of this? Ryan's voice cut through the stillness, crossing the boundaries of disbelief and pushing for truth. Martha stepped forward slightly, vulnerability softening her profile. I don't expect you to trust me not right away. But I want to be honest with you all. I've lived with this guilt for far too long. We can't rewrite what has happened, but maybe we can start to mend it. Jack's heart thudded painfully in his ribs, uncertainty mingling with hope. Perhaps this was their chance not just to learn about Samantha but to reshape the course of their lives, to build a more honest family together. Let us sit down, Jack suggested, his voice steady now, nudging the door wider to invite Martha in. We need to talk, all of us. They moved inside, and Jack felt an ache of possibilities fill the room. With every step, he could almost visualize the broken pieces being picked up again. As they settled into the living room, all four of them together for the first time, the air felt charged with the promise of understanding. Jack glanced at Samantha, whose expression mirrored his own swirling emotions. Ryan shifted, uncertainty still clinging to him as he caught their mother's eye. While our past is tangled, maybe we can start here, Jack began, voice steady. Let us lay it all out. What really happened? And how do we move forward? The words hung heavily in the air, echoing the longing they all shared for connection. In that moment, the past didn't have to define them anymore. Together, they were ready to navigate the complexity of siblinghood and motherhood, confronting the ghosts of their family with new light. Martha took a deep breath, emotion etched across her face. I'll tell you everything. It's time. And as secrets slipped into the open, Jack had a fleeting yet vivid sense that this was the beginning of a new chapter. One that held the possibility of healing, forgiveness, and the rekindling of love. With a newfound determination, Jack reached for Samantha's hand, feeling the warmth as a silent vow passed between them. They would face this journey as family, together, the first step toward rebuilding whatever was broken, and finally unraveling the truth of who they truly were. As they began to talk, the wind howled outside, but inside, a new bond began to grow, a promise of connection that could finally heal hearts long broken by silence. If they could confront the past head-on, they might just discover the strength to pave a brighter, shared future. Now was the moment for transformation. They felt it in their bones. This was a new beginning. But before anyone could speak again, a final knock hit the door, echoing through the room. That last surprise lingered in the air, holding a tinge of anticipation. With hearts pounding in unison, they knew they would face it together. Whatever awaited next wouldn't define them, but only sharpen the resolution to forge ahead. What lay ahead remained open, but they were determined to step into it together. And as Jack took a deep breath, ready for whatever the world threw next, he realized one undeniable truth. Family was both a puzzle and a canvas, and they held the brush to paint their own story anew. Now was the time to embrace change, to nurture relationships that could bring them back together. It all began here. With hearts united, it was clear it was time to forge ahead. Now more than ever, they would face it together. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for this inspiring journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of family. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait, not even one more second, to share this powerful moment.